Nadine, welcome. My name is Daryâ Ensemble, and I'm the only non-Iranian here, in case you haven't figured that out already. So first I will introduce the members of the group. This is Arian playing the tombak. Chemainus is playing santur. Babak is singing. Nanaimo also is singing. Babak is playing sitar. Babak is playing oud. Faraidoun is playing violin and viola and piano. Hensley is playing the bass. You might wonder why I'm here. I do occasionally. When I was in high school, my art teacher at the boarding school where I was at picked up a hitchhiker who had a couple of Appalachian dulcimers. And for some reason, he loaned one of them to me for the last 2 weeks of school. And that kind of clicked my button, you know. I often wonder, like, what is it that makes people just have to play music? Like, look at all these people. They didn't have to do this, except they had to do it. It's so amazing to me. So anyway, that Appalachian dulcimer just turned my on switch, and I returned to Kentucky and became a banjo player. I grew up in Kentucky. And also my roommate at high school had given me a classical guitar. And then I found an Indian sitar in a music store in Cincinnati. And then a friend said, there's this interesting dean of music in Eugene, Oregon. So I got my Volkswagen van and drove all the way to Oregon. You think it's far to get from Iran to here, well, man, and that Volkswagen bus was a long way from Kentucky to Oregon. So I got to Oregon and I went to the dean of music and I said, I have this Indian sitar. Do you know anybody who can teach me how to play it? And he said, no. But there's this Iranian fellow. This is being in the right place at the right time. There's this Iranian fellow. His name was Ghulam Hossein Jannati Atai. We knew him as Babak. And Bob played the santur, and he was having this class, Introduction to Classical Persian Music. So, you know, Indian music, modal music, Persian music, this is what the dean told me, try it out. And so I went, and I felt totally in love. And I fell in love with the sound of the tar and the name. That was what went right into my heart. So my teacher said, okay, give me $100 for a tar and $20 for an A. I'll get you some instruments. This is before the revolution. This is 1972. And then his brother Firuz came with a santur, and he took Firuz's santur and gave it to me and said, okay, now you can play the santur. And I don't owe you any money. So I had to learn how to play the santur. But first, I became a classical guitarist. Actually, I went to the University of Utah because my teacher went there and he was the only Iranian I knew, so I had to move to Utah. I got to meet people like Faraidoun Akhavan and Babak, Mohammad Esmaili, who gave me my first tombak lesson. It was an amazing group of people that came through. Daryâ Ensemble came through. But after a while, I went back to Eugene and became a classical guitarist. Then I had to go to San Francisco to get my degrees. And then on April something, it was Easter morning, I was clicking through a friend's channel changer, and I heard Farsi for the first time in like 10 years. And they were talking about a concert that was happening that night. In the meantime, the revolution had happened a couple of years earlier, a few years earlier. And they were talking about a current concert that was happening in San Francisco that night with Mohammad Reza Lotfi, Hossein Alizadeh, Hossein Umumi, Mohammad Qavi Harun. And I had a concert that night in Oakland, so I drove over to Oakland and put my pieces the first thing on the program, and then drove back and got back to San Francisco in time for intermission. The first thing I heard was Umumi playing the name. It just grabbed me all over again. So I thought, wow, maybe I can study with these guys, but it turned out they were all going back to Europe. So I went back to playing guitar. Then I met somebody who said, my cousin, this is a friend in Tennessee, who said, my cousin in San Francisco plays the sitar. Maybe you should meet her. And guess what? She was studying sitar with Mohammad Reza Lutfi, who had stayed in California. So she introduced me to Lutfi, and I got to study with him for about 3 months, learning guitar. So I had a santur and guitar. And then I found out about all these musicians that were in San Jose. We called it Little Tehran. So every week I would go down to San Jose. I had santur lessons with a student of Paivar, Mahkashi Hiromi. I had oud lessons with Akbar Mosini, who I couldn't quite tell if he was doing a riz or a tak, because he was very old. Anyway, he was my oud teacher. I studied with Mahmoud Zolfonun a little bit. Yeah, I was totally lucky. And I played with this group called Del Navazan. I played guitar. And then Lutfi left California, and his sitar maker, Zolfonun, who I had met because he was in California at that time also, he said, you should go to Paris and study with Daryâ Ensemble. Because I actually had a $10,000 grant from the University of UC Berkeley, and I was going to go to Iran and see if I could study with Ali Zadeh, but they wouldn't give me a visa. So I wrote to Talaï, and Talaï accepted me as a student, so I went to Paris for a year, and there was Oumi teaching Ney at the Sorbonne. I had sitar lessons with Qasemi, Rizal Qasemi, and my guitar lessons. So every week I had guitar lessons, Ney lessons, and sitar lessons. And then I came back to California, moved to Seattle because Talaï had gotten a visiting professorship there, so I could keep working with Talaï for a while. And then he left. I was stranded in Seattle. Fortunately, I was still doing guitar concerts, and my wife was studying with somebody who was still sitting at concerts in Seattle, and he arranged it so that she would stay in my house for a couple of weeks to hear the concerts, and then we got married. So she brought me back to Victoria, where I was able to work with Faraidoun, like for the last 20 years or so. After a while, Arian showed up. And gradually, Arian found all these other people, which brings me to Iman Bolqani, who was a great santur player that we worked with for a couple of years, who about 13 years ago decided to take a canoe out to an island right over there to go camping, and his boat was knocked over and he did not survive. So we lost our santur player, which kind of took the wind out of our sails for a while. So anyway, I wanted to dedicate this program to the memory of Iman Bolqani. Anyway, eventually we recovered and started doing some more concerts, Arian, Faraidoun, and myself. And then Arian found all these other people who just showed up at the right time. So